Yesterday, I reported on Trump ally and far-right fascist Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro testing positive for coronavirus after months of denying and downplaying the virus. This is how he addressed reporters after his positive diagnosis.
Você vê minha cara aqui, tá certo? Aqui, só. Você vê minha cara, eu tô bem, tranquilo, graças a Deus. É tudo em paz, obrigado a todos aqueles que oraram por mim, torceram por mim, estou bem, graças a Deus.
It started off that he had a fever. Then on Monday, yesterday, he told Brazilians that his lungs were clear, whatever that means. Of course, probably no one else in the world, Andrea, has been as much of a COVID denier as Jair Bolsonaro. When he was first asked, when the death toll in Brazil passed 5,000, what do you think of this? He said, so what? He has said it's a little flu or a cold, and he said because he used to be an athlete, that it would be no problem for him.
And cherry on top of his awfulness, he reportedly said masks were for gay slur, starting with F, right before the man tested positive for coronavirus. In the US, our discourse tends to be quite Americentric, but so I think comparisons to Trump about Bolsonaro downplay how terrible Bolsonaro is. So I don't want to look at him through that context, even though there are a lot of similarities. But Bolsonaro is an old school fascist, a Nazi-style fascist, and that is not an exaggeration. Right now he's burning the rainforest as we speak for industry, allowing for that to happen and then blaming it on Leonardo DiCaprio. That's a true story. Look it up. I mean, he said black Brazilians do nothing. They're not even good for procreation. He called them animals. He told a female congresswoman he would rape her if she weren't so ugly. Those are just comments, but his the way he's ruled in Brazil backs that up completely. And Brazil is the largest country in South America. It's enormously important. There are so many Brazilians, and I think it should get more attention, and I don't want to sugarcoat who Bolsonaro is by saying he's, the South American Trump. He's even more vicious than Trump, and his handling of the coronavirus is just the cherry on top of his horribleness, his danger, his sociopathic nature, psychopathic nature, as you saw when he ripped off that mask. It's been abysmal, only rivaling Trump's botched response, more based on stupidity than they're both malicious, but Trump's stupider than Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro is a straight up evil guy who's cunning. As the caseload has skyrocketed, Mr. Bolsonaro has shunned masks, attended mass rallies of his supporters, insisted that the virus poses no threat to healthy people, championed unproven remedies, and shuffled through health ministers who disagreed with him. Brazil now has more than 1.6 million confirmed cases and more than 65,000 deaths, more than any country except the United States. As the country's coronavirus caseload ballooned, Mr. Bolsonaro fired his first health minister in April over disagreements about the response to the virus and drove his second one to quit less than a month into the job. Since mid-May, an active-duty army general with no experience in healthcare has headed the ministry, which has been faulted for failing to mount a robust testing and contact tracing strategy. As the health crisis worsened, Mr. Bolsonaro sparred with governors and mayors who imposed loosely enforced lockdowns and quarantines. Claiming that local officials were presenting an unduly grim picture of the pandemic, Mr. Bolsonaro in June called on supporters to break into hospitals and film what they saw. The president's illness will do little to alter Brazil's approach unless he experiences serious complications, politicians and public experts predicted. The country is now in the process of reopening, with Brazilians packing bars, beaches, and public spaces. So I broke my own rule there and compared Bolsonaro to Trump, and when you read that, there's obviously many comparisons that one can make. It's quite similar in that sense. But Trump is not as smart as Bolsonaro, does not have the training and the fascist background that Bolsonaro does, and the United States compared to Brazil is a more entrenched democracy. Even though we're relatively young compared to European countries, we have been around for a few hundred years. Brazil's democracy is so new, not even 100 years old. So Bolsonaro can whittle away at checks and balances in the way that Trump cannot. And that's what makes him so terrifying, and what makes his response just another blotch on his horrific record.